Has anybody ever heard of Rachel Maddow?
Rachel Maddow has her own show on the liberal radio network Air America.
Joining us now, Rachel Maddow.
With me tonight, Rachel Maddow. Joining me again, Rachel Maddow.
Rachel Maddow of Air America Radio.
I saw that.
Here to make sense of what all of this means, one of our all-time favorites, Air America star Rachel Maddow.
I think the abortion stuff is going to be a big deal. I think the fact that he said we want to get rid of Roe v. Wade, the fact that there isn't support for a right to abortion in the Constitution, the fact that his wife is the executive vice president of Feminists for Life, I mean, that stuff is going to matter. He's not going to be a suitor.
Already bringing his wife into it.
The fact is that tells you something about his politics on choice, and it's going to matter.
Why do we decide Brad Pitt going is more important than millions of people dying, millions of people being sold into slavery?
I mean, we all saw Hotel Rwanda and felt awful about the fact that the Rwandan genocide was never covered. The same thing is happening in Darfur. It's in different circumstances, but it's happening again, and we're ignoring it.
It's Rachel Maddow shaking her head preemptively. We haven't even started talking yet, and already you're going like that.
I read the speech, right? I paid attention to this all day. I was sitting upstairs and right outside your office, and I was kind of writing out arguments and things that I wanted to talk about. And then, on the television, in the corner of my eye, there's you sitting there smiling through Joe Scarborough.
Yes!
Showing Osama, Howard Dean, Osama, John Kerry, Osama, Ted Kennedy.
Didn't it blow your mind?
I'm actively mad at you.
Didn't it blow your mind?
It blew my mind that that's your take on it.
Isn't it uncanny? I am in no way comparing the moral. I'm not comparing.
I'm not comparing this.
The moral value
of talking points from the DNC.
It's incredible.
There's no comparison.
It's incredible.
The real issue for me here, though, is how obscure a celebrity do you have to be before your boyfriend missing isn't a story? I mean, I would have thought that Olivia Newton-John was that obscure, but I've been proven wrong. I mean, if Tootie from The Facts of Life has a relative that something happens to...
That's huge. Tootie from anything that happens to Tootie, huge as far as I'm concerned.
The less well-known sister from Heart, Richard Dawson. Okay. Where do we stop? Where's the obscurity line? For me, the greatest legacy of Ronald Reagan's presidency, growing up as a gay kid in the 80s in San Francisco, is AIDS. As spending the first 7 years of the AIDS epidemic never saying the word. And so to me, naming something after Reagan hurts me. But to you, it could be a hero.
Maybe when we have more time, you can, and it may take a lot of time, you can explain how Ronald Reagan is responsible for AIDS.
How the president ignoring an epidemic that was killing thousands of people, including lots I knew, that did hurt the problem.
As a conservative, I'm against change of any kind.
As a conservative, could you be against renaming the street because of the deficit that he ran up?
No.
Civil rights for all Americans, black, white, red, yellow, gay, straight, etc., is not a liberal or a conservative value. It's an American value.
I hope that when your colleagues on the right get upset about this Roberts revelation, that you'll speak out about that, because it's nice to hear you say it. But, you know, the White House has gone to great lengths to make us all think that the Crawford is a little White House, but it's really not. I mean, listen to the president himself talk about it. He says, I'm going fishing with my man Barney. I'd taken a nap, reading a little Elmore Leonard. There's pictures of him out there fishing, clearing brush, and doing all this stuff. Meanwhile, the mothers of soldiers killed in Iraq are literally camped in a ditch outside his house waiting to meet with him. 68 soldiers have died in Iraq since he's been there. The economy is in absolute shambles. We've got the biggest budget deficit we've ever had. We've got a war going. We've got 2 wars going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. The Iraq Constitution deadline, 3rd one, just blew by. And he's fishing. And I find it embarrassing as an American.
You know, the White House, of course, has called her the secret weapon. Rachel, you agree?
Well, you know, no officers have been prosecuted for Abu Ghraib, and there's the Downing Street memo that says the war on Iraq had nothing to do with weapons. So the Bush administration has decided that it's strategy for approaching the Muslim public opinion to have Laura Bush tape the Egyptian version of Sesame Street. I think that Bush is finally making his policy at grade level.
Interesting.
The TV, the DVDs, it is a $10 billion industry. Now, let me ask you, Rachel, do you think that is a bad thing or a good thing or a neutral thing?
I think that's the market. I think you're stating there what people are spending their money on. And we can try to persuade them to not spend their money on it.
All right.
But can we say it's illegal for you to spend your money on this?
All right, we used to be able to. We don't now. What Rachel says is correct. That's the free market. Rachel, why aren't you any good at math?
You know, Larry Summers, he opens his mouth and his thoughts come out. That's the problem.
What is wrong with him throwing out an idea, even if it was wrong-headed? Why can't he at least have a discussion about it? What is academic freedom all about?
Academic freedom is one thing, but Pat, consider what he did. He went to a conference about diversity in science and engineering, where people are presenting data about science and engineering, diversity, women and men, how these things work. He got up there with no information, with no research, with no data, and said, has anyone actually considered whether or not women are just incapable of competing for these jobs?
He's got some data. They're not
a scientific idea.
At Harvard right now, there's some absolutely brilliant undergraduates in science. I happen to know some of them. They want to be inspired by Larry Summers, and I think he's now learned his lesson on that.
I think we ought to consider the possibility that maybe men just aren't cut out to be university presidents.
Or talk show hosts.
For example.
Were you wrong? Was the New York Times wrong? Was George Bush right all along?
No. Unsurprisingly, Joe, I'm going to tell you that I wasn't wrong. I'm sure you're shocked to hear that. But
shocked and stunned.
The situation here is that we went into Iraq because Iraq, remember, posed a threat to the United States. Weapons of mass destruction, a connection with al-Qaeda, 45 minutes to launching weapons of mass destruction on a hair trigger. There was a fear of Saddam Hussein, right?
And
now we've gone to a war, and now they're saying, well, it was worth it because we're spreading democracy. This is equivalent.
Absolutely.
The analogy here, let me just give you an analogy. This is like a drunk driver driving his car into your living room and then saying, give me an award for being an airbag tester. Because didn't that work out
Rachel,
okay?
though, hold on a second. Rachel, though,
G. Gordon Liddy, thank you very much. Rachel Maddow, as always, thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
Rachel should be in television. She's hot.
We agree with that.